guys, welcome to the Law Firm Accelerator. Today with us we have Laura Mangini. She is a partner at Alekman DiTusa, a personal injury practice. Laura, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Would you introduce yourself and your practice?
Sure. Again, my name's attorney Laura Mangini. I practice at Alekman DiTusa at Springfield, Mass, which is in the western part of the state. Although our firm covers the entire state, we're also licensed in Connecticut and New York. I've been with the firm essentially since I graduated law school, so for 12 years now. I became a partner in 2020, and my firm primarily practices on crime victims' rights cases. So I will represent survivors of childhood sexual abuse, primarily against corporations, so against like the church, schools, school bus companies, those types of cases.
Well, that's a tough area of law to be in. Can I ask you why you decided to go into this specific subset of personal injury law?
It's interesting. So I didn't necessarily, I don't want to say I didn't have a choice, but probably 6 or 8 years ago now, Rob and Ryan, the two main partners at the firm, Ryan Alekman and Rob DiTusa, came to me and said, hey, there's not a great number of lawyers, especially in the western part of Massachusetts, that handles these cases, but we know there's a need for them. And we initially partnered with a lawyer from Boston who was helping us. And they said, would you be willing to do these cases? And when I was in law school, I actually ended up with a certificate in human rights because of the course load that I took. So I took a lot of cases in, European human rights law, Latin American law. I participated in the asylum clinic. And so I was able to help refugees get asylum status in Massachusetts, in the United States. So I've always had kind of this need to help people that don't have the tools or methods to be able to help themselves, especially in these very, serious situations where really there's no one else that's willing to step up.
Yeah, somebody has to do it. And does it take a toll on you?
I said it didn't. These clients, a lot of times we're the end of the line for them. A lot of times have tried to go through the criminal justice system, and the criminal justice system has failed them because it's such a different standard and there's different things that are being looked at. So they feel like they've been silenced that way. A lot of times I might be the first person that my client has ever told about what happened to them. And so we have to kind of walk them through the process in a way that's not as traumatizing or re-traumatizing. Unfortunately, the litigation process in general, especially in these types of cases, is very re-traumatizing for clients. So it's a lot of hand-holding, and I don't mean that in like the bad sense, but just having to explain to them, you're going to have to answer questions that are very uncomfortable, and this is what it's going to be like, and just kind of help them through that process. And so it can be very draining emotionally, especially when you're in the details of some of these cases day in and day out.
Yeah, that does sound rough. So you started with Alekman DiTusa in 2013, and you've progressed from associate to partner. Now, I know many people would like to make that journey. Can you share some things that you've learned along the way?
Sure. Probably the biggest thing is being able to practice law is not the same thing as being able to run a law firm. Those are two completely different skill sets that they don't really teach you in law school. And one of the things about becoming partner is, of course, you have to kind of be able to bring in your own business, right? Because you need to be able to make money for the firm. And so being able to manage that on top of trying to do cases, it's not a 9-to-5 job, right? I mean, litigation itself is not a 9-to-5 job, but on top of that, dealing with the business side of running a law firm was eye-opening.
And when you say the business side, what is the areas of business you focus on, and where do you feel like the most value?
So for me personally, bringing the most value to the firm, I think it's through the local connections that I've made. So I'm not actually from Western Massachusetts. I actually grew up in Central Mass, and then I went to law school down in Connecticut. And Western Mass is a very tight-knit community of lawyers. It's a small bar association out here. Everyone knows everyone. We all go to the same events at the end of the day. And so I very quickly got involved in the local bar association, started networking with people. And now, again, because not a lot of people do the type of law that I do, whenever someone gets a case like that, they automatically call me because of my networks that I've made. So I think I've been able to bring in local connections. And then I've kind of also brought on that, I'm part of other organizations, national organizations that we get referrals from, statewide organizations. And I think that's probably the biggest asset that I brought in is bringing in those connections.
Yeah, so one of the common threads I see when I speak with successful lawyers is they tend to niche really, really down, hyper niche almost. So when you are, if you're listening out there, you're not sure, what is the best way to make as much, impact as you can. It's often just to niche super, really find your niche. And when you network with people, it really will be that you are the person they think of when they have a case that fits, right? I do the same thing in my agency. I only work with lawyers of law firms of certain sizes. I work with small law firms. I work with people who are located in certain areas, in certain practice areas as well. So, when a friend is like, I need a lawyer, need an SEO for a law firm, they know, if it fits, it's me. So that works really, really well. Now, in addition to networking, what other marketing approaches do you use?
So our firm does a lot of social media marketing. We have a Facebook presence. We have an Instagram presence. We are slowly making our way to TikTok videos because that seems to be the way that things are moving because people want that quick information that they can just click a button. So we do a lot of that. We also do a lot of commercials. And I think one thing that sets our firm apart from other law firms is that we actually appear in the commercials, right? So, it's not a celebrity that's coming in and pretending to be us at Alekman DiTusa. We bring in our clients and we do a lot with our reviews. We'll put those on our commercials and stuff like that so that you see, who you're getting and what you're getting basically. And then me specifically, a lot of my marketing really comes in through my cases. So because of the nature of my cases, unfortunately, the media will pick them up a lot, just because they are newsworthy cases. And so a lot of times there'll be articles written about the cases when I file them, which often brings in more clients because people will be, specifically searching for that perpetrator, for example, or that school. And so then my name will pop up and they'll know that I'm representing someone else. And so they will call that way as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's go back to one thing you mentioned. People love to see the actual attorney who will be working with them. And so I'm not sure if you guys are putting a lot of work into your website, but one thing I noticed that something that could be helpful to you is you do have pictures of attorneys at the homepage, but once we start to drill down, I don't see any pictures of lawyers there. And so let's say somebody finds you directly for your motorcycle accident page. It's helpful if they can not only read about the motorcycle accidents, but they can also see the faces and the names of the attorneys they will be speaking with. A lot of times people don't pay as much attention to the secondary pages, but remember, if somebody goes on Google and they Google motorcycle accident lawyer, they're not going to get to your homepage. They're going to get to the motorcycle accident page. So it is helpful to have your photos, and I always ask my lawyers to do new photos throughout as much of the website as possible. And that will help you with the conversions as well. So talk to me a little bit about your firm's ideal clients. Do you have a specific demographic are you looking for? Is there a specific geographic area? What is your profile?
We are not specific to any demographic or geographic area. Really, our ideal client is someone that needs help navigating the civil litigation system, whether it be something as simple as a car wreck against an insurance company that has, unlimited funds, and it's this poor person just trying to get reimbursed for their damages and their pain and suffering, or again, a sexual abuse survivor who doesn't know what else to do and has no one else to turn to. That's really our ideal client. So Ryan Alekman actually speaks Spanish at our firm. He studied in Spain when he was in undergrad, I think. Don't ask me when that was, but he's fluent in Spanish. And so I think a lot of our Hispanic population likes that there's a lawyer that specifically speaks their language and that they can come in and talk to them, and don't have to necessarily do it through an interpreter.
Do you have a Spanish version of your website as well?
I don't actually know the answer to that question.
I couldn't find one. Sometimes they're hidden, but I couldn't find one. So that's another good thing. If you have a lot of Spanish speaking clients or any other language, it's helpful to have that content in Spanish. And it's easy to do it now because ChatGPT, our mutual friend, will translate it for you pretty well. So you just have to have a Spanish speaker kind of look over it, of course, make sure it's good. But it's a lot easier and it's a lot cheaper to do it now than it used to be. Okay. So when you mentioned you go on social media, and I always find it interesting when PI lawyers use social media, because to me, PI is something that's a very quick sales cycle, right? Like, God forbid, you're in an automobile accident, you need a lawyer now. Maybe with your type of cases, the sales cycle is a bit longer because they really want to get to know you before they contact you. But generally, social media is not, social media is sort of about building a relationship. So do you find that you have a lot of clients coming to you that saw you on social media?
So we actually just really we just really started with the TikTok, videos, probably, and the Instagram page, I should actually say, probably within the last 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of those is, again, really to just kind of get our faces out there. And so that way, if someone's Googling or searching for, I was just in a car accident, what should I do? Or my insurance company's telling me this, what should I do? It'll pop up, right? And so we come across as hopefully people that you can talk to, people that we know what we're talking about. Facebook, we've been on for much longer. I don't know specifically how much we get through Facebook as opposed to Google per se.
Yeah.
And actually a majority of our cases come in through referrals, through client referrals. So yeah, I think it's one of those things where our clients like our Facebook, and then they have their friends like our Facebook as well. So it's kind of hard to differentiate between what is specifically through Facebook and what is through referrals. But we also use social media for other reasons. If, for example, we're investigating a case that might have multiple plaintiffs, we will sometimes do a targeted ad saying, if you have any information, please contact us, that type of thing. So there's other purposes for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to have multiple touch points in general, and having that Facebook well optimized, having Instagram well optimized. Even if they didn't find you that way, often they will check you out, especially with cases where they're going to think a little bit more about whether you're the right lawyer. People want to check you out. People want to make sure that, you're posting good content and things like that. So it's good to have that stuff. But yeah, Google is going to generally be faster kind of turnaround time for new calls. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So can you talk a little bit about what marketing strategies have worked for you, do you think, best? Where is your best marketing dollar being spent right now?
Probably it's just, and I'm just, I'm thinking about it because we have actually not increased our marketing budget over the past couple of years because we haven't needed to because of our referral system. Mm-hmm. So I think our referral system and showing through commercials and, social media, what we do within the community through pro bono work, is probably the best source. We do a lot of TV ads, and a lot of our clients come in that way. We saw you on TV or we see your commercial and we really liked your commercial as opposed to, this law firm's down the street. So that's why we came to you. And also Google searches. So, for me specifically, someone will Google sex abuse lawyer Springfield and I will pop up. And so that has, I think a lot of my cases also come in that way because when you're in that type of case, people don't know who to look for and they're not going to start calling because they don't want to have to tell everyone their story every single time they call.
Yeah. For a very niche market, that's one of the advantages is you will be one of very few people who practice in that area. When it comes to something like, let's say, car accident lawyer, things your partners work in, those are going to be much harder to rank because there's so many people trying to rank for car accident lawyer. Right. There's a lot of competition. Yeah. So it requires a much larger marketing budget in order to be able to rank there. But it sounds like commercials are doing well for you. And I don't speak to many people who do a lot of commercials anymore. Can you tell me what's the unique thing about your commercials that you think makes them work so well?
Well, I think it's just that typically it's Rob and Ryan. I mean, we haven't recorded new commercials in a couple of years, so it's Rob and Ryan that are actually in the commercials. They're in our office or at like a local restaurant. And so when people see them, I think one of the things that they've said is that the commercials come off as genuine. They understand that, okay, this is actually Ryan Alekman. This is actually Rob DiTusa. This is one of the lawyers I'm going to get, and I'm going to meet with them if I go to their firm. As opposed to a law firm, for example, that has a celebrity that is a celebrity and you're never actually going to meet the lawyers. You have no idea who the lawyers are. Mm-hmm. And I think, our brand has always been that we are the lawyers that you can talk to and that you should talk to. And that's something that we have woven throughout our TV ads to make sure that people understand that. And so when you come into our office, you meet with our paralegal for the intake, but then you also meet with one of us at the end. So unless, for some reason one of us isn't in the office, but you're always meeting with one of the partners in the firm. And then that just reiterates the brand that we've kind of started from the initial advertising.
So when you do ads that mention your brand, whether that's TV or billboards or whatever, you're actually helping yourself with digital marketing as well. Because what happens is people Google your brand. And anytime people Google your brand, Google gives you extra credits to your website to push it higher. So if you add other content to your website, by having a lot of people Google your brand, Google is going to think you are kind of more powerful on the internet. So that really helps, not just with conversions, but also just with getting you higher.
The other thing that we've done, I think that has helped with the Google algorithm specifically is we have really pushed our staff to get Google reviews from our clients at the end of the case. Yeah. And I think that, so at the end of every case, when the client comes up to pick their check, we'll send them, hey, can you fill out this Google review? And we actually have a little QR code that they can just scan, or we can text it to them, and they can fill it right out on their phone. So that has really helped. And then on the flip side, we can take those Google reviews and post them on our Instagram or our Facebook. That type of thing.
So there are two major algorithms, right? There is one for your website and there is one for your Google My Business listing. So when you're getting Google reviews for your Google My Business listing, about 80% of how well that listing does depends on the reviews. So it's huge. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if you're getting good reviews, there's a few things you could do to rank better, but basically you'll be ranking very, very well. And it's very important to make sure that you're always asking for those reviews. And one of the things I suggest is if you speak with somebody and the case is not right for you, but you have given them helpful advice, you can still ask them for reviews, because any professional interaction is good, and the more reviews you have is better. In addition to that, I like to incorporate the Google reviews throughout the website so that you have, first, of course, a picture of the lawyer, then you have a little bit of text, then you have a review, then you have a little bit more text, then you have maybe a call to action, then you have another review. And so the reviews are, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on the length of the page. And so when the person is reading them, they're sort of making that decision, and that decision is being reinforced with positive reviews. And having good ones and having a lot of good ones makes a big difference, especially if you can find specific reviews for those specific cases. So you can find the slip and fall review or the motorcycle accident review, and that can be really big conversion fact. It can be really, really helpful. So I know we spoke a little bit about what sets you apart already. You mentioned that your partners are really involved in the cases and that everybody gets to meet a partner and that people, you're very responsive. Is there anything else that you would say is sort of unique about the way you run your firm?
I don't know if it's unique per se, but I think one of the things that's helpful is we have also implemented a client text system. And so that way, I don't think people I don't like to talk on the phone, right? I don't think people like to talk on the phone anymore. And so not everyone is great with email, but everyone can text. Well, almost everyone can text. And so clients can text us. And if it's a new text, say it's a new person just looking for a lawyer on the weekend, the text will automatically come to me, Rob, or Ryan, and so we can respond right away. Um, yep. And then, or if it's an emergency, I have, and again, because of the nature of my niche and what I do, sometimes I have clients that just need to like text me stuff. They don't even need a response, but they just need to get it out. And so the text allows them to tell me what they need to tell me in a way that's easy for them and that they're more comfortable with, and that they might not be as embarrassed telling me, and then I can respond to it. Or if it's just, it's midnight and they're freaking out about something on their case, they don't have to wait till Monday to call me. They can text me and then I can respond, the next morning when I'm drinking my coffee or something like that. So I think that is very helpful, because clients can send us pictures of, police reports, property damage. They don't have to physically come into the office initially. Pre-COVID, I would say we had a lot of walk-ins, like people that would just come in off the street. And from a business standpoint, that's not really efficient because our paralegals are being interrupted. They have to stop. They have to look at it. And so it just was really disruptive. And that is really, we may get like 1 or 2 walk-ins a month now, compared to like 1 or 2 a day pre-COVID. And I think part of that is the texting and being able to text. And they can do it through our website. So we'll get the connect through the website. They can do it through Facebook. And again, then that is initially established. And whenever they're thinking about the case, they can just say, hey, what's going on with my case? And they'll get a response within X number of hours.
That is unique actually, because, my mom had a personal injury case, and let me tell you something. She didn't ask me for a referral, of course, because I would have given her a referral. Of course, she decides to go on her own because she knows better.
Right.
And it took us quite a few more hours than that to get a response.
Yeah, right. I mean, every case is different, and if for some reason all 3 of us are tied up, but we'll get that buzz, and it will show up in my phone that, it's just, hey, I had a car accident and I was injured, and then I can follow up if you say they're at the hospital or something, okay, send me a police report when you get the chance, or can you tell me what happened? And because our paralegals are Spanish, people that are bilingual or that prefer Spanish can also text us in Spanish. We had one client that was Turkish, and so he texted us in Turkish, and with ChatGPT or, Google Translate, we were able to communicate him much more easily that way than him trying to find a buddy to talk to him with, to talk to us that way. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're using technology pretty well. You're kind of, on the edge there with technology, because a lot of lawyers tend to be a little more conservative with it. Is there any other technology that you've incorporated recently into your practice? I'm throwing out questions we didn't prepare for.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to think. I think the text is the big thing, and we've had that probably for, over a year now. The QR code with the Google reviews, and again, we can text the client the Google reviews. I think those are the big things. We're always kind of looking for what might make the process more efficient. So we've always kind of investigated, outsourcing medical record reviews, outsourcing intake, stuff like that. But we haven't fully made that transition yet. Yeah. I know everyone's using ChatGPT and those kind of AI to hopefully not write motions, but
I think it happens.
We're dabbling into that. We're using AI more through like programs like Westlaw's Co-Counsel and stuff like that. But technology is changing so much; it's hard to stay on the edge. So, one of the things that we do is we go to conferences and we talk to the people that are using these different programs, and what works for you, type of thing, and trying to stay up to date. So I'm glad that you think that we are on the edge, because sometimes I feel like we're 20 years behind.
No, you good. I sometimes speak to people who are 20 years behind. You good. So to go back to marketing, it sounds like you're doing a lot of things right. Now, I always ask this question. Do you have a strategy that you've invested dollars in and you're like, oh man, that just did not work? And what would that strategy be? Maybe your least effective strategy that you've tried in your firm.
It'll be interesting, I think, to see what happens with the TikTok stuff. That's something that I don't know if we're fully sold on yet, but I was the one that pushed that, to be honest with you, because I was like, people aren't on Facebook anymore. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. We got to kind of move away from the Facebook. It's for old people now. Like, what's going on? So we'll see how that works. But we're pretty consistent in what we do with marketing. It's commercials, it's billboards. One thing that I think we've moved more away from is kind of blog posts, because I don't know how often people are actually reading blog posts anymore. I know that was kind of a big craze for a couple of years, probably 5 to 10 years ago. But we still try to do them and hopefully I'll be using AI to write those more quickly for me. But I don't know if there's anything specifically that hasn't worked that I can think of over the past couple of years.
So with blog posts, we don't really write them for humans. Once in a while, a human will go on and look for an answer to a question. But mostly we're writing blog posts for Google because we want Google to think of your website as an authority on a topic. So when we have, let's say, sex abuse cases, and we have all these different aspects of sex abuse case, and we're answering all these different questions in a blog post, and that blog post is connected to the primary page for sex abuse cases, Google says, these people are an expert, and I put expert in quotes, of course, because,
right.
You're lawyers, but, these people have specialty in this area. Therefore, when somebody looks for sex abuse lawyer, this is the website they should go to, because this is the most informative website I have on this topic. And so when you have it on sex abuse, lawyer, for instance, that's not as important because, again, it's a small niche. But when you have it in something like car accidents or slip and falls, it's very important for Google to see you as an expert or an authority on a topic. And that's why we write blog posts. But I agree with you. Nobody really reads them. I don't know that anybody's ever read, what to do in a T-bone accident. But Google reads it. So it's important if you want to appear for those searches, not just on your Google My Business profile, but also with your website, right? Because Google My Business profile doesn't always come up with the searches. And we also want to be seen, in many areas of the page, not just in one area of the page. Then it's important to do those. When you're working with your cases, you are working against major institutions. Now, how do you prepare your clients to face these institutions, and how do you deal with these people? They must be not easy to deal with.
Well, we won't go into that because that could be a whole topic, a whole other podcast. I think the best way, specifically for my types of cases, and again, I handle other cases in the firm too, but specifically, I'm the one that's doing these cases. The best advice I can give is the clients you have to tell them what's going to come, and you have to explain it to them so that they know every option, right? So say I have a motion. I will explain to the client, okay, I'm going to the motion. These are the potential outcomes of this motion. And if this happens, then this is what's going to result. And if this happens, then this is what this means. In my cases specifically, one of the things I think that my clients are missing because of what happened to them is that sense of control. And so explaining to them, and so that way they can, if they know that they're going to have to appear for something, giving them enough time to be able to mentally prepare themselves for that hearing, ask me whatever questions they want to ask me, we can go through it. And that way, when they go into it, they've kind of gone through all the scenarios in their head, so it's not a surprise. I think for my clients specifically, the worst thing is for them to just be in a situation where they're surprised and they're on the defensive and they feel like they're being attacked again. They're going to be attacked, right? I mean, that's what happens in these cases. But I think if they're prepared for it, they're much better able to handle it.
It sounds like you almost have to be half psychologist, half lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, you really, with my cases, a lot of the stuff that you're doing is more social work therapy type stuff, just kind of talking them through it, What happens if they find out about this indiscreet event that happened 20 years ago? How is that going to affect my case? I think it makes me look crazy. Am I going to look crazy if I say that? What if I start crying during my deposition? I mean, these are all things that, we have to kind of talk them through. And a lot of it is also, why are they fighting me so hard on this? Why won't they just pay me? Why are they offering me X amount of dollars when this is what happened to me? Because unfortunately, from the other side, I have to make sure that clients understand this. They're looking at it from a business perspective. They don't have the emotional attachment that my clients have because it didn't happen to them. They're looking at, how can I get out of this for the cheapest amount possible? And what happens if I don't offer a reasonable amount and we go to trial? What are the likely outcomes, and what is the risk of, a big judgment against us?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And certainly those are things I'm sure a lot of victims go through, even if they're not suing the entity, but having to face them in court must be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not even, not even just for those victims, but even for cases against the insurance companies. It's still the biggest thing for the clients to understand is they have an emotional attachment to the case because it happened to them, right? And it's their one case. Hopefully they never have to come back to us. Although if something happens, hopefully they do. But hopefully they never have to come back to us.
Yeah.
But for the insurance companies, they're just one of thousands. That,
Yeah.
You know, that the insurance company losing a case is not going to shut down the insurance company.
Right.
But our client losing a case might have catastrophic effects for our client.
Right. Yeah, it's certainly a tough field you picked.
I know.
Well, somebody has to do it, and I'm sure having a woman do it is helpful as well. Yeah. So I usually ask people for a favorite client story, but I feel like that would be inappropriate in your case because nobody comes to you because they've had, a good life experience. They come into you because something terrible happened to them. Do you have a client story that's that really stuck with you, where you feel like you've made a big difference? Wow. Wow. How? It sounds like you really bend over backwards for your clients. I know a lot of lawyers struggle with work-life balance. Do you have a work-life balance? Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, so no work-life balance, got it. I asked you about work-life balance and you're like, I have to answer them. That's okay. Well, you have room for growth. So what's next for Alekman DiTusa? All right, that's a beautiful interview, and thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate you joining me. Do you have any last words of wisdom for all the workaholics out there? Yeah. All right, stick around.